There we go. So we can. Sorry about that, guys. We had some things pop up, but we're back at it. So, Zach, I know you mentioned that you wanted to. I guess we were talking about public policy and how you worked at the polls. And aside from that, did you see like a big difference in you working there as far as the demographic like really increase and really go out there to vote?
Yes, so well, first, I am a Middle Eastern male with black hair, brown eyes. Behind me is a yellow wall with a picture of a painting by Keith Haring, and I am wearing a gray short sleeve shirt. So to answer your question, um, actually, I'm sorry if you could repeat that.
It's okay. So I know you mentioned you were working at the polls and helping people, get out there, register to vote, and to really voice their opinions, which obviously matters. Did you see like a difference in like the turnout demographic wise as far as persons with disabilities?
Yes, so turnout has been steadily increasing among the disability community during elections in both odd and even years. And I say that because historically, odd numbered year elections have always experienced low turnout because that's usually when state and local elections are held and federal elections are held during even numbered years, but we've seen a steady increase in both odd and even year elections, just because people are starting to really see that the disability community is making an impact, not just in elections and voting, but in overall culture. So in transportation, in healthcare. So accessibility is kind of the new trend almost among the public now. You hear a lot of talk about making subway stations accessible and the MTA making them accessible. You hear a lot of talk about the intersectionality between healthcare and disabilities, education and disabilities. So I think we're seeing not only an increase in turnout, but an increase in cultural awareness in terms of the disability
Yes.
community as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and we need more of that. And much like yourself, I've always been involved in the community myself as far as accessibility, whether we're going into like buildings or just everyday daily living, access to fitness centers or I live in Florida, so in Florida in Orlando you know they don't have a day recognizing cerebral palsy. So one day out of the blue I was working at a summer camp because I work with students, and my commissioner comes in and he recognizes me from previous years that we were working at events together, and he said, how are you doing? So I said, yeah, I'm all right. And he sat down with me and he started talking to me about his mom and how his mom has cerebral palsy. And I'm like, why don't we why don't we come up with a day, proclamation to proclaim World CP Day as a part of Orlando? And he's like, I'd like a person like you on my team because after hearing your story and what you had to share, you have a strong voice that I can use on my team as far as really reaching out to the disability community. So we've been working together for the last year doing different projects.
Yeah, and you mentioned fitness and working out, and that brings me to what I'm currently doing, which is I am rock climbing. I've been doing it for a month, and I've always wanted to do it. And I actually met somebody while working the polls on election day in June who works at um, a center in Queens called the Cliffs. And they have a group called paraclimbers. So it's climbers with disabilities who don't just climb at the cliffs, but do it professionally and, enter competitions and win all sorts of tournaments. So I've really connected with a really powerful and a really open community. Um, and I was never athletic. I love sports, I love basketball, baseball, and football, but I never really did anything athletic. And this is really my first dip into doing anything of that ilk. And I've been doing it for a month now, and I've really progressed. I've never realized how much strength I actually had in my upper and lower body until I started doing it. So I'm just gonna keep coming back every week and getting better.
Once you find something that you enjoy and you're excelling at, there's no stopping you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what.
And it gives me a hobby, because I'm I love politics, and politics and advocacy are my passion, but I've got I've got this on the side now. I cook. So I have things that I do on the side. So I have a pretty balanced life, and it feels really good to discover another community who's like me, but who's also different in the fact that they do athletic things, things that you wouldn't you wouldn't normally discuss when it comes to people with disabilities. And I know that's unfortunate to say, but aside from the Special Olympics, I personally still don't hear much about a connection between people with disabilities and sports. So this is this to me, it's great, and it's really progressive. And I also want to give a shout out to your colleague Nicole for linking us, because I know she had tried to sign a petition, or start a petition rather, to have the Empire State Building lit up green for World CP Day. So I just want to give a shout out to her for linking us and having this discussion.
Hey, it's been a wonderful discussion, and it seems like you're really excelling at everything you're pursuing. And I hope you don't change, and I hope you keep the personality that you have now, and it's very admirable, and it's wonderful to hear. It's a breath of fresh air.
Ah, thank you, thank you. My friends always say that I'm stubborn, but I think that stubbornness is finally starting to pay off.
I think the stubbornness really hits us all, because I can be stubborn at times, especially when it comes to dealing with cerebral palsy. When you have to wear certain equipment and you don't wear it, but you realize it's helpful for you. Like, I wear AFOs to walk.
Me too.
So, and then I've been learning how to embrace them and work out with them on, because
Yeah.
they help out more than you um when you work out without them. Because when you work out without them, you're doing more harm than good, for
See,
your
now
body.
I'm going to disagree, because I actually climbed without them, and I've worked out without them, and I feel like I'm actually developing more muscles in my legs than I have before. I think the AFOs, while they're good for mobility, they can sometimes put constraint on areas that need to grow and need to breathe. So, having them on is good, but to taking them off to increase your strength might be beneficial.
Right. And it's I alternate with them. So some days I'll take them off just to do some stretching and some resistance bands, and some days I'll
Yep.
I'll wear them and do, just walk around the neighborhood and do that, and do push-ups and sit-ups. And I'm very, you know I try to stay going, stay moving.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, yeah, there are some days where, it's either raining, or where I just stay in the house because they figured, okay, I was out a majority of the week, so it's no big deal. But it's really important for us to stay mobile, because doctors and physical therapists can really make a difference, but it's up to us to keep putting that work in, and only we know our bodies individually. This goes back to what I said before when I said that two people could have the same disability, but their experiences could vary. It's up to us as individuals, because we know our bodies better than anyone, to keep that work going and to push ourselves even further, to go further beyond our abilities, because it's in there.
You couldn't have said that more right, my friend. Well, is there like any words of positivity or advice you can leave our listeners as far as them pursuing their goals and their dreams and overcoming their own obstacles?
I mean, really, it all depends on your perspective as far as how you want to go about something, how you receive and give information back. Um, I just want to touch on neurodiversity for a second, because we're
Okay.
hearing a lot of talk about uh, DEI. There's a lot of controversy over DEI right now, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think a really big part that's missing from diversity, equity, and inclusion is neurodiversity. Not just people with invisible disabilities that affect their brains directly, but how we think, how we relay information, how our perspectives shape our views, shape how we solve problems, shape how ideas are formed. When you consider that, then that opens the door to a whole new understanding of what diversity actually is. Like, it isn't something you can always see. It's invisible, but it's impactful.
Right. And as long as it, like you said, as long as it gives an impact and it brings up the message, that's what's important.
Mhm. So my advice would be to keep putting yourself out there and to educate as much as possible. I know there's still a stigma surrounding disability, unfortunately, despite having the ADA for 33 years now, but don't let that stigma stop you from unveiling who you are and from teaching others in your community with different disabilities, or your able-bodied partners. Don't stop that from showing them who you really are, and just continue to educate yourselves, educate your communities, and you know you'll figure out a path to your goal. Because people like to say you should do this, and this, and there's a ton of self-help out there, but your perspective and your views are what matters, and that's ultimately what's going to create your path toward your goal, whatever it is.
Thank you, Zach. That was pretty insightful, and I thank you for your time and your expertise, and for a wonderful conversation today.
Thank you, and I want to again thank your colleague Nicole for bringing us together. So if you're listening, thank you, Nicole.
Oh yeah, and she'll definitely listen, and she's a wonderful human being, and she's always
Yeah,
out there for everybody.
yeah, she's got a great spirit to her.
She really does. Like we need more of her in this world. That's for sure.
Mhm.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I look forward to talking with you again.
And you guys, if you want to listen to this podcast, you can go on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and every other major podcasting outlet out there. As always, until the next episode, and take care, you guys. Be safe and have a good one.